All right, well, everybody, welcome to the Mary Hyatt Show. Of course, I am your show host, Mary, and I could not be more excited to be with you on this Wednesday, the day after spring, which means we are officially entering in a new season, which is very exciting for me because the winter has been long, it has been hard, and I am the first to say that I am so ready for things to shift and to bloom and for there to be new, lighter energy. If you can relate, type in a number 1 in the comments below. If you are happy that it's spring, if you are doing your spring dance, hallelujah, type in a number 1 below because I know I'm not alone in having a challenging winter. And with sometimes a challenging winter, we experience all kinds of different emotions, so depression and just heaviness. And I found myself experiencing a lot of those emotions this past week that sort of resulted in some pretty heavy meltdown. So we're going to talk today about giving yourself permission to melt down. Giving yourself permission to melt down. But for those of you who maybe don't know who I am, maybe this is the first time that you have tuned in to my show, first of all, welcome. And let me take just a second to introduce myself. So like I said, my name is Mary Hyatt. I am a life coach, a body love advocate, and a presidential diamond with doTERRA essential oils. And my heart is really lights up when I get to help women wake up, find their voice, and become fully alive. And so each week we talk about authenticity, vulnerability, how to love your body, how to accept yourself, how to feel like you are enough and that you have worth and value no matter what it is that you do or accomplish, that just by being you, you have value. So I am honored that you are here with me today. And without further ado, let's start the show. All right, so let's talk about melting down here for just a second, because if you follow me on Instagram, this past week, maybe you have noticed that I have been really emotional. I have been going through this kind of season of heaviness and a lot of emotions, and it was kind of a combination of these old wounds that were triggered in me. And I coupled that with, I just got back from a recent conference where I really felt this heavy feeling that I needed to do more, that I had failed, that I wasn't holding my own, that there were all these amazing people around me and I felt like I was behind. I felt like I wasn't good enough. And it was like 3 days in a row that I was just crying and just triggered. And there were so many different things that kept triggering me. And what happened is, so the other day, this is on Monday, I'll tell you one of the stories of my meltdowns because there were a few. But on Monday, I probably cried and melted down like 4 times, which I am an emotional human being, but that is a little excessive for me. And so I was sitting on the floor of the guest room in my house upstairs, and I was with Bentley. And our guest room, I don't know if you guys have a room like this in your house, has become the catch-all and our folding room, you should say. So basically there is a ton of clean laundry all over the place in our guest bedroom, and that's where we go to fold our laundry. So we were sitting on the floor and we were folding laundry, and I started just getting kind of emotional, and I don't even remember what sparked it, but I finally, through talking it out, realized what the root of what was going on was. And it was like, oh my God, I hit it. And I remember as I was crying, I just kept apologizing to Bentley, who's my boyfriend, by the way. And I started crying, and I was covering my face, and I was just like, I'm sorry, I'm so sorry, I'm sorry. And he's always so precious because we have kind of an agreement that we don't run and that we don't run from our emotions. Let me just turn my thing off really quick, you guys. Sorry. So hopefully, let me just make sure this is coming in because it's saying it stopped broadcast for me, but I want to make sure that on y'all's end, it is coming through before I try to change network. So let's just see that really quick. And Shelly, if you are watching this, will you just text me? Shelly is my lovely assistant. And will you just let me know if this is coming through or not, or if we have stopped? Because I want to make sure that we are actually broadcasting. So let me just give this a quick second to see if we are coming through, and then I'll get back to my story. Okay, here we go. We are back. Sorry about that. I don't know why my internet's going in and out, but there we go. Okay, so thanks for hanging with me. So, rewind. I'm apologizing. I'm like, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. And we have this rule that we don't hide, so he always kind of moves my hands down my face. And he said to me, we don't hide. And he said, you have nothing to be sorry for. You have absolutely nothing to be sorry for. And he looked at me and he said, Mary, he said, it's like you are not allowing yourself to be human. It's like you're trying to be perfect and you're not allowing yourself to be human. And I said to him, but I'm supposed to be happy and positive all the time. And if I'm not, you're going to leave me. And I was like, oh my God, where did that come from? Like all of a sudden I go from crying to shame to if I'm experiencing emotion, he's going to leave me. That was what the brain was telling me. Now, of course, that is not true. And he very quickly affirmed, like, girl, no way. And he said, Mary, if you were happy 24/7, he was like, that would be weird. That would be really weird. And, that was some old stuff that was coming up for me. And what I realized is that it is okay to be human. That humans have emotions. Humans have emotions. And that it is normal for us to be exhausted. And I know that we're cutting out again. I'm not sure why this is cutting out. Let me just text my assistant really quick. I don't know what's going on there. Let's see. Okay, let me cut off everything. Usually I don't have an issue with my... All right, I am back, and hopefully you guys will tune in with me now. I don't know why my connection wasn't working. I have switched my network, so hopefully we are going to be good to go because I have... got so much great content to share with you guys. So I'm going to give you a second to hop on. Let me just double check that all of this is working. And if you're watching the recording, this is the part 2 of the Giving Yourself Permission to Meltdown. We had some technical difficulties before, and we're just making sure this is up and running. So let's see. Thank you guys so much for being patient. I so appreciate it. And I know that we will get all of this sorted out so we can have a lovely show. Okay, it looks like we are on. I am going to just text my assistant something really quickly so that I don't have to get on and see your comments to take up the Wi-Fi. So hopefully she will send me those. So if you guys are commenting, then she's going to send those to me. Hang on one second. Okay, guys, like I said, one woman show here. We are working it out in real time. This is how it goes. And just another practice for me to not have to worry about it all being perfect and that I get to be human and you guys get to witness that, and we're still going to continue on and have a great show. So, rewind, having a meltdown with Bentley and allowing myself to be human, ultimately. Giving myself permission to say, I don't have to be happy 24/7. That there are going to be good days, there are going to be hard days, there are going to be amazing days, and there's going to be everything in between. That's what he was telling me. And he said, Mary, you can't go through life perfectly. Like it's not going to happen. It's not part of our human design to just not let things affect us. Like we are human. Some of the stuff is going to touch us, and that's a good thing. And so what I realized in that moment was that I was judging myself for being emotional. And I think it was, Whitney, maybe you were saying this earlier in the show, that you have a hard time letting yourself cry. And that's so common. I think, believe somewhere that we are supposed to have it together 100% of the time, that we feel this pressure to have it together 100% of the time. Raise your hand if you feel that way. If you feel like you have to have it together 100% of the time, give me some likes, give me some hearts, even comment below and say, yes, I feel like that all the time. I want to know. Because what it feels like is that we aren't allowed to show emotion, that we aren't allowed to show our cracks, the fact that we're human. And this is reinforced, of course, by society, by advertising. Basically either you're depressed and you should be on medication, or you are happy, 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 happy. And this is an illusion that we think that we have to be that way. Thanks for the hearts. Thank you for the likes. But y'all know that for me, I really, truly believe that in order for us to change, and in this case, welcome in emotions, giving ourselves permission to feel, giving ourselves permission to not have it together 100% of the time, to melt down, to experience emotions, to feel, that change, that movement towards more allowing has to begin with awareness. We have to understand why it is that we feel like we should have it all together before we give ourselves permission to be human. We have to understand the why. Why do we feel like we can't feel? Where does this stem from? Where does this begin? What is the root? Because as we know, like logic says, yeah, we have emotions. This is normal. This is possible. But there's some other voice that says, girl, get it together. Suck it up. Big girls don't cry. All those things. We've been taught so early on from childhood that it's not safe for us to express emotions. And I believe that we feel this way for 4 reasons. We believe that we have to have it all together for 4 reasons. Now, let me go through these reasons with you. So reason number 1, we believe we have to keep it all together is because we believe that some emotions are good and some emotions are bad. So what that looks like is basically we have attached morality to our emotions. We have good, sanctioned feelings, and we have bad, unsanctioned feelings. We believe that we should trust some and we should not trust others. And so many of us are seriously afraid of experiencing some of our emotions. I mean, we are deathly afraid as women to feel and to express anger, resentment, frustration, sadness, hurt. Like especially in the South, I don't know, this may just go for the whole world, but I know in the South, it's like, I'm so happy, everything is perfect, everything is great, I can't be angry, I can't be sad, I can't be frustrated, I can't be resentful, I can't be hurt. Like we have to put on that mask and pretend, because those aren't good feelings. Those are in the bad category. And here's what's really interesting. We believe deep down somewhere that if we experience those bad emotions, then all of a sudden those emotions become our identity. That all of a sudden if we experience anger or express anger, now all of a sudden we are an angry woman. It's so interesting to me. Like anger for women has been so taboo. Like we are truly like not supposed to experience anger, or we're an angry woman. And at least for me, it's like we all knew of the angry women or that angry woman, and God forbid that we be her. And we better get it together, that ladies don't experience anger. Ladies don't show their emotion. They kind of, put your pinky up and drink your tea and keep it all together, tightly knit and pleasant and happy. I mean, this goes back really, really far. But for me, I would argue that there are no good or bad emotions. That all emotions should be neutral in the sense that they are created equal. That our experience of emotions is going to be the rainbow. It's like, what if our emotions were only the red and the orange? We were only allowed to feel joy and elation. We miss out on the colors of the entire rainbow that make up who we are as human beings. And so to me, part of our work is to take away this judgment of emotions being bad or good, and sort of like taking down the fence and saying, hey, all emotions are good. There's a proper way to express them. There is a proper way to feel them, but all emotions are I shouldn't even say good, are healthy. They're healthy. They exist inside of us. We are a whole human being. And so we are going to experience the range of emotions. And, I think about when we are tapped into our emotions, it makes us so incredibly strong. We are wiser. We are more in tune with our intuition. We have that emotional intelligence that's really high that allows us to be empathetic, that gives us compassion to relate to other people, to have great interpersonal relationships. And I really think when we are tapped into our emotions, all of them, it's like a superpower. It's like you can see things before they happen, before your brain registers, because you're feeling it on a gut level. It's powerful. Like you can read a room instantly. You can sell to people better. That emotional intelligence is really a superpower. And I love this quote from Daniel Goleman. He says, if your emotional abilities aren't in hand, if you don't have self-awareness, if you are not able to manage your distressing emotions, if you can't have empathy and have effective relationships, then no matter how smart you are not going to get very far. And that's the power. It doesn't really matter how intellectually smart you are. Emotional intelligence trumps that every time. And it's very hard to relate to somebody else who hasn't experienced sort of the range of emotions. I feel like every time I go through something hard, and I feel anger, I feel resentment, I feel fear, I feel grief, I feel sadness, it enhances my capacity to love other people better. Because I'm like, oh my God, I know exactly what that feels like. And I get to tell people what you're feeling, what you're experiencing is normal. It's normal. You're going to be okay. You are normal. It makes us better partners. It makes us better lovers. It makes us better business owners. It makes us better friends. It makes us ultimately better citizens. And basically, when you are tapped into your emotions without judgment, I'm just putting this out there as an amazing benefit. You're going to have better sex. You are going to have a thriving business, and you're going to have better relationships. Sound good? Sound good? I think yes. I think that sounds awesome. And because otherwise, if you're not tapped into your emotions, you cannot experience intimacy with anybody, anything. And so there's like this invisible wall that's between you and other people. And our true happiness is found in our connection with other people. So the more we feel, the more we give other people permission to feel, we can empathize with them and create deeper, more intimate relationships. Pretty awesome. Okay, so reason number 2 why we feel like we have to keep it together is because there is this belief that masculine energy is better. Masculine energy is better. And so as a society, we have always valued the hard, the direct, the cold, the unemotional sort of masculine energy above this feminine, fluid, intuitive, soft, emotional attributes of feminine energy. So think about Wall Street. Think about the White House. Think about all the other examples of patriarchy in our culture. We live in a culture, especially in the West, that deifies masculinity, where we truly believe that feminine energy is weak and masculine energy is strong. where there's brute force versus emotional connection, that you are going to exist in one or the other. But I want to challenge this also a little bit, because feminine energy is anything but weak. Feeling emotion, to me, is one of the strongest characteristics of the feminine energy. It's powerful. It can sway kings and armies. If you think about it, it raises up children. It keeps communities together. It fosters relationships and intimacy. It's intelligent. It's fluid. I think about women. I'm like, women can multitask like a mother beep beep. We can multitask. We are strong. Our feminine energy is fierce. You think about all the different archetypes, feminine archetypes, Joan of Arc, Aphrodite, different queens and goddesses, Wonder Woman, Hermione Granger, Katniss Everdeen, Oprah, Mother Teresa. Just think about the strength of each of those women. They are powerful. Powerful. And this isn't to bash masculine energy, because we both have feminine and masculine energy, no matter what sex you are. Even in same-sex relationships, you're going to have masculine energy, feminine energy. That polarity is really healthy. And so what we need to do is start seeing feminine energy as equal to and valued as much as masculine energy. That we need both in harmony to create a world that is even more passionate, more successful, full of life. Full of harmony is when both of those polarities are in sync with each other, masculine and feminine together. Neither is weak and neither is strong. Both are equal strengths, have their equal strengths and their equal weaknesses. And so we need them both equally. So we have to kind of dispel this myth that masculine energy is better or strong and feminine energy is worse and weak. That they are both equal, we need them both, and that feminine energy is fierce and strong in its own right. Now, the third reason that we feel like we have to keep it all together is that simply we do not understand our emotions. We simply do not understand our emotions, and we're afraid of them. I want to hear the comments, and Shelly, I'm going to have you text me the comments since I can't see them. But I want to know from you guys, do you believe that if you allow yourself to fully feel that you're going to go out of control, that somebody's going to lock you up in a loony bin, that you're going to go crazy, and that your emotions frighten you? If that is you, I want you to just type in a number 2 below in the comment section. Just type in a number 2. If you want to elaborate, feel free to elaborate. I will see your comments. I will mention them and talk about them. But we've been kind of taught that to be afraid of our emotions because we don't understand them. I mean, think about this. Did anybody ever sit you down as you were a little kid and say, hey, here are what your emotions are. Here are how you're going to feel them. This is what they feel like in the body. You're going to experience in them. This is how you process. Juanita, we got a 2 from you, girl. Thank you. Did anybody ever sit you down and kind of explain, here's what emotions are? Tina, you say yes. What do they feel like in our bodies? Think about this. Do you know what anger feels like in your body? Do you know what joy feels like in your body? Do you know what elation feels like in your body? Kayla, you're saying yes. Got a 2 from Tina. Y'all are awesome. And there's this fear, right? We have this fear that if we don't know what it feels like in our body, there's this fear of this unknown. We don't know what's going to happen. We don't feel like we have control over our emotions ultimately because we've never been taught how to have control over them. We've never been taught how to actually feel. I'm going to give you a resource on how to feel your emotions here in a little bit. But the other piece of this is not understanding them is that we don't have an extensive vocabulary. Barbara, you said, yes, I feel it comes when the fear of being truly seen. It's easier to hide. Yes. Isn't that the truth? There's such vulnerability in being seen. Again, because there's some belief that if we feel we are weak, we are damaged, we are broken, we are crazy. There's some deep-seated fear there that if we show emotion, it makes us less than. And again, I believe it actually makes us incredibly strong and much stronger. People who feel, in my opinion, I have a much higher respect for than people who don't feel. Truly. People who I see cry in public or in front of others in intimate relationships with me, I have so much more respect for them because the level of vulnerability and bravery that it takes to feel and allow that to be seen, to me, is much braver than keeping it all hidden and closed down, which is so normal. We all have that tendency. But we don't have a huge vocabulary for our emotions. Think about it. We know, okay, I feel happy, I feel sad, I feel angry, I feel upset, I feel frustrated, I feel depressed, I feel scared, relaxed, or stressed. But how often do we ask ourselves, am I feeling more blissful or ecstatic or elated, or maybe I'm feeling satisfied, or maybe I'm feeling delighted? That's an expansive vocabulary. Or am I feeling crushed, or am I feeling rejected? Am I feeling indignant? Am I feeling tormented, or am I feeling humiliated? We don't really have this vocabulary, and we're just taught, once we feel something, keep it together, suck it up, hurry up and get over it. We have not been taught how to have grace for our emotions. And so, Shelly, I'm going to have you share that resource, the emotional list. I'm going to give you in the comments a link that you can click on that is a list of all the emotions so that you begin to expand your emotional vocabulary. Whitney said, I love this thought. I'm definitely going to try harder to name my baby's girl's emotions and have her recognize what her body is doing when she feels them. Love, love, love. You make me a better mom. Oh, gosh, wouldn't that be amazing if we had moms that did that when we were little? That we're able to say, oh, sweetie, what is it that you're feeling? And give us that emotional vocabulary. Because then we can pinpoint better what is it we're experiencing. And then we don't have to be afraid of them. Learning that there's a range of emotions, a huge range of emotions. Again, they're neutral. None are bad, none are good. And that we are going to experience a lot of them in our lifetime. A lot of them. Okay, so that's reason number 3 why we feel like we have to keep it together, is because we're afraid of them, or we feel like we don't truly understand our emotions. Now, the 4th reason is that our picture of emotional health is skewed. This one gets my blood boiling, y'all. I mean, seriously, this one, I just get all charged up about this, because we think that being emotionally healthy should look like we are flatlined, that our emotions are flatlined. That if we are healthy and happy and balanced, that it will just be nothing. That we'll kind of walk through life as a zombie, sort of numb to everything. And we think that is health, emotional health. And this is only perpetuated by the pharmaceutical industry, because all of our drugs basically do that to our brains. So if we're experiencing this height of emotions of depression or anxiety, it swings the pendulum over here and we feel nothing. We're completely numbed out. And that's what we think is emotional health. The reality is that it is just being fully numb. You're not experiencing it. You don't feel a thing. And this is not normal. It is not normal to not experience emotions, and it's not normal not to cry. And I don't say this in a shaming way, because for so long, I think I went 6 or 7 years without crying, y'all. Without crying. I was so terrified of my emotions. I was so numb by the medication I was taking. I didn't cry. And I thought I was in a good spot. Now I cry all the time. But I am so much happier. I'm so much happier. And the reality is that our emotions should ebb and they should flow. We should have peaks and we should have valleys. Okay, and everything in between. It's not always high, it's not always low, but it's, maybe a little subtle, okay, we're here. It ebbs and it flows, it weaves, it's fluid. We're emotional human beings, and we should feel something every day. Depending on what we're experiencing in life, we are going to have an emotional reaction to it. And so, our feelings are not there to be cast out or conquered. They're there to be engaged and expressed with imagination and intelligence, right? Like, they're not to be just cast out and conquered. Like, they're bad, we shouldn't have them. We should celebrate emotions, because then we can experience life. How we experience life as human beings is when we are online. Not like online Facebook, but when we are clued into life, when we are turned on, when we are numb, when we are checked out, when we are soothing and coping by everything else. That's not truly living. Living is being happy, is being sad, everything in between, and feeling what we are experiencing in life. We are engaged. We are fully present with this moment right now. And even like for me, I'm a little bit nervous. Our internet connection was going crazy. So I'm like, oh, is it going to go out? And it's like, okay, so I'm feeling that. That's not good or bad. That's just my experience at this moment right now. I can give myself permission to feel that. So let me just set the record straight. Emotions are normal. Being numb is not normal. Emotions are normal. We experience life through our emotions before our brain, our intellect, ever catches up. We feel it in our physical body, our emotional body first, and then our brain catches up. We think that we think it first and experience life mentally, intellectually, psychologically, but actually we experience it through our feelings and our emotions and our body, physical body first. It's like why we have that gut feeling. We experience it, we feel the vibe, we feel the energy of stuff before we ever kind of can put words to it. And so being engaged with our emotions gives us such an advantage to life and a full experience of it. It means that we are truly, fully alive. And that's why I want to give you the permission to let yourself melt down. It does not mean you are weak. It does not mean that you are a helpless human being. There's no cause for shame, that your emotions are normal. And if there are people in your life who will shame you for having emotions, you need to consider that. Get into some therapy, talk to somebody about that, create healthy boundaries, give yourself permission to feel, even if they, ridicule you. And I know that's easier said than done. Good Lord, do I believe that? I've lived that, I know. But little by little, even if you have to go away and experience your emotions, if you allow yourself to feel, even if it's not in front of anybody for a long time, you feeling them is the first step. So here are what I consider 4 side effects when we don't let ourselves feel. Because ultimately, if we ignore, if we silence, if we push down emotions, they are going to cause major side effects. And why is that? Because we're human. We are wired to have emotions. So ignoring them, silencing, pushing them down is unnatural. And so it's going to cause side effects. It's not how our bodies are supposed to work. It's not how we're supposed to exist in the world. So I love this quote from Brene Brown. You've probably heard of it before, but I think it's so powerful. And she said, "We can't selectively numb emotion. Numb the dark and you numb the light." So the first side effect is you numb it all. You don't get to experience all the rich, amazing love, joy, elation, gratitude, just like where all your cells are tingling because just life is amazing. You don't get to ever experience that kind of light when you are trying so hard to numb the dark. You cannot selectively numb. You numb the light, or you numb the dark, you numb the light. You numb it all. And so you don't get to experience life. You numb it all. That's the first side effect. You just are numb across the board. The second side effect is that when you ignore your emotions or press them down, it goes into the body. Our body traps and stores undealt with, unprocessed emotions and causes a lot of health complications. I could do an entire show on this, and maybe I will, but our bodies store emotions like crazy. Think about this from a real, not a woo-woo way, but like a practical way. Think about an ulcer. What causes ulcers? Stress. Undealt with stress. It's like all that pent up energy causes ulcers. depression, anxiety, all of that is caused by undealt with emotions. All that fear that we don't deal with, it builds up inside of us and creates all this anxiety. Then we have ailments, then we have complications. Every single part of our body relates to a different emotion, according to Eastern Chinese medicine. And so you could have something going on with your knee and it's connected to a feeling of dread. Y'all, I mean, it's crazy. I've studied this so much, but our bodies are so incredibly intelligent and connected to our emotions that when we don't process it cognitively or moving the energy out through our bodies, it goes into our bodies, gets locked up, stored. We get tight hips, we get tight muscles, tight chest. It is shown through illness, disease in our bodies. It is scientific. Like I said, I could go into a whole thing about that, but it gets trapped in our body. So it goes to the body. So that's the second side effect when we don't deal with our emotions. And it's serious, y'all. It's literally serious. Heart attacks, all that kind of stuff. Third side effect is that it erupts. So here's what I had to say about that. So think about a beach ball. I've used this analogy before. Think about a beach ball. And what happens when you have a beach ball and you try to submerge it into water? It's like, you know, you're using all this energy and we're pressing it down. It's hard because it's going against the resistance of the water. Pressing it down. And eventually it cannot handle the pressure anymore. And poof, it pops up, gets, hits your face and whatever. And this is when we see anger and we have this negative reaction to anger. And the fear of feeling it is because the anger that we typically see is anger that has been trying to be suppressed for so long that eventually it erupts out in an unhealthy way. When we properly deal with anger at the time that it's coming up or close to, it's not that intense. It really isn't. It's not taking over your whole body, uncontrollable, just hurt everybody around you, barking, yelling, screaming. It doesn't look like that. It really doesn't look like that. And I've practiced with anger a lot recently. And it's not scary. When it's dealt with close to what's going on, it's not intentional, or it's not intense. Juanita, you said, yes, I would love to do a show on how emotions show up in the body. Duly noted, and I will talk about that for sure. So it comes out sideways when we try to keep it down. So the side effect is that it erupts and it's damaging to those around us. It's not pretty. That's what happens when you get into feeling like you're crazy, all that kind of stuff, because it's like you've suppressed it for so long. Now, let me just say this. If you have been suppressing your emotions for a really, really long time and you are afraid of the eruption, you are afraid of the damage that it can cause if you actually give yourself permission to feel. Let me just tell you that there are wonderful, safe people to work this out through. Therapists, coaches, programs, retreats, seminars where you could really process your emotions slowly, effectively, and in a way that's really healing and effective. So just know that it doesn't have to look like a crazy eruption, but it's basically when you deny it and pretend it's not there and stuff, it will come out sideways. But if you actively say, I'm going to give myself permission to feel this, even though I haven't felt in a long time, that's not when it's going to erupt. It erupts when you truly ignore it forever. You keep ignoring it and you keep pressing it down. That's when it erupts. When you're conscious and you actively decide, I'm going to address this, I'm going to process, I'm going to release, I'm going to let go, I'm going to deal with it, I'm going to give myself permission to cry. My therapist said that you can only experience heightened emotion. The body can only experience heightened emotions for 20 minutes at a time before you get a break. It's like a panic attack, for example. 20 minutes, and then something has to shift in the body. Our bodies can't handle that intense emotions for that long. So I always love thinking about that. Like, even if I'm in an intense place with my emotions, like I go, this is riding the wave. It will dissipate eventually. I'm not going to feel this forever. I'm not going to die in this emotion. It's not going to take over me. This is just the ebb and flow. So remember that it's not going to erupt if you give yourself permission to feel. It may feel intense, it may be heightened, but that's not going to exist and last forever. So comfort, know that. Okay, the fourth side effect, this is a really unpleasant one, is that it leads to addiction or self-sabotage. It leads to addiction or self-sabotage. Food, overeating, undereating, obsessive controlling eating, eating disorders, alcohol, abusive sex, workaholics, These are all forms of control. So we have this obsession, basically, that we start applying it to different areas: food, sex, alcohol, shopping, working, whatever, Netflixing, because it's an obsession so that we numb, that we distract ourselves, or in this case of self-sabotage, we try to blow something up in our lives to distract us from what's really going on below the surface. So the side effect of not dealing with our emotions or feeling like we have to keep it all together is that it turns into addiction or self-sabotage. And you might notice that in yourself. And you go, oh yeah. That's just our sweet way, our scared way of trying to avoid what we think will cause us pain. So we can have a lot of empathy for ourselves, and sometimes the crazy, weird ways in which we process things, like, oh my gosh, eating too much, not eating enough, being obsessed about health, dieting, all these crazy things. These are just ways that we're just trying to process and try to protect ourselves from pain. That's it. Because again, going back to, we don't feel like we understand our emotions, or we're afraid they're going to take over us. We're going to distract ourselves in any other way that we can. So again, it's coming back into really giving ourselves permission. So I want to give you permission, or ask you to give yourself permission to melt down, to cry, to scream, to yell, to feel. Even if that's by yourself, even if you're screaming into a pillow, even if you have to cry. I wear waterproof mascara a lot of the days when I know I'm emotional, because I know that sometimes I have to sit in my car and just give myself permission to cry for a few minutes before I go into a meeting or do something. And we are human. Humans feel. Humans get exhausted. Humans feel tired. Humans get upset. Humans get hurt. Humans get angry, overwhelmed, frustrated. So try to offer yourself kindness and not attach shame to any kind of emotion. Because when those emotions come up and we feel vulnerable, we feel attacked, we feel taken advantage of, we feel abused, we feel fear, what we truly need is tenderness. What we truly need is tenderness. And so I want to end with this quote from Brene Brown in her latest book called Rising Strong. Actually, that's not her latest book. It was the second to last book. She says, the opposite of recognizing that we're feeling something is denying our emotions. The opposite of being curious is disengaging. When we deny our stories and disengage from tough emotions, they don't go away. Instead, they own us. They define us. Our job is not to deny the story, but to defy the ending, to rise strong, recognize our story, and rumble with the truth until we get to a place where we think, yes, this has happened. This is my truth, and I will choose how the story ends. I just think that's so powerful. We're not here to deny our stories. We get to define our ending. We get to define what our emotions mean to us, feeling them, giving ourselves that permission to be vulnerable. And so I hope that a little bit more you get to do that. And if you're curious on how to learn how to feel your feelings, I did a Facebook Live on this, probably a year ago. It was like the 7 ways to feel your feelings. And understand your feelings. And so I'm going to post a link here. Shelly's going to post a link in the comments of where you can find that video and watch it. And I've summarized it and recapped it in the notes on my website. So if you click that link, if you want to take this one step further to go, okay, I give myself permission now, how do I do it? What does that look like? Then you can go to that previous Facebook Live video that I did a couple years ago when I was in Colorado. And I think that'll be really helpful. So until then, I just want to offer you permission to be human and to feel your stuff, to feel your emotions, to go in it, to let yourself be a little bit of a mess, and offer yourself love, compassion, empathy, and tenderness. So y'all, the purpose of life is to be grateful, to be great, and to be full. Thank you guys so much for being on with me, for dealing with our technical difficulties. And I will see y'all here next week on the Mary Hyatt Facebook Live show. Hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your week.